what is happening? Like, I felt so sick, and I called them, and I thought I was gonna have to go to the hospital because of what was happening. And I called them and they said, oh, you're probably having a reaction. Maybe we gave you too much. Hey guys, it's Amanda. Welcome back to Let's Talk Health. I'm going to be talking about my experience with IBS and sharing my story with you. So grab a coffee or grab a tea and come join me. So my issues with IBS started about 10 years ago. And the first thing that I started feeling was really bloated, and I had some abdominal pain. So I would wake up and I would just eat breakfast, and then I would be bloated, and then the bloating would kind of increase throughout the day, and I would be bloated later on in the evening, and then overnight I would get better, and then the same cycle would happen every day. So it was this constant feeling of bloated and pressure and pain in my abdomen that wasn't getting any better. So I went to see my doctor to have things investigated and see what's going on. Is it something serious, or what could be going on and causing these gut health issues for me? So I'm sure a lot of people that have IBS are familiar with this, where you go through different types of tests, many different types of tests, just looking for answers. So for me, the first thing that we did was a blood test to see, just checking general health, and then just to see if I had H. pylori. So that can be tested through the blood, but it can also be tested different ways, which I'll get into in a bit. So first test was blood test. Everything came back normal. There was no H. pylori. And I was kind of just like left with not really many answers. My doctor told me a couple of things that I could do to improve my diet. So she said, you can consider a probiotic, you can take some fiber. Both of those, which I tried, that didn't help. So I was then just like left with not knowing what to do. So I went back and talked to her and said, I'm still feeling this. Every day I'm bloated. Every day I'm in pain. I don't want to live like this. So I went back to see her and I told her how I felt. I told her that I wasn't getting any better. And she referred me to a stomach specialist to do further testing. So when I went to see the specialist, they basically said like what we could do is an endoscopy, and that's where they go with the camera into the esophagus and go into the stomach and see what's going on there. So I said, sure, like, let's give it a try and let's see what it's like. So the day of the procedure, I went in. Again, this kind of took some time. All of this kind of, like I said, it started about 10 years ago, but up until like when I got the endoscopy, that was probably already about a couple of years. So my symptoms started about 10 years ago. Then I was dealing with them for a few months, and by the time I saw the doctor and then I got a referral to the specialist, that was within about a couple of years. So I went and had the endoscopy done, and this is a procedure where they put you to sleep, so under anesthetic for it. So I remember it was so uncomfortable, and if anybody has had this procedure, you would know it's really uncomfortable. You like feel yourself like the anesthetic working on you and putting you to sleep while they're putting the tube down. It was just really uncomfortable. So that happened, and I was looking forward to getting some answers finally from it. And when the results came back about a few weeks later, there was nothing. Everything was fine. There was no celiac disease, no H. pylori, because they took the scope. And it was, I guess, in a way, it was a relief that nothing was really wrong with me, but at the same time, it's like I didn't have any answers. And then I had a follow-up appointment with the stomach specialist, and they said, everything's fine, and you have IBS. So then that's when I was diagnosed with having IBS, and I didn't really get much information from them. They just said, you have to kind of watch what you eat, and that's really it. There's nothing we can do. So yeah, so I just remember kind of being stuck and not sure what else I could do. So I went back to my medical doctor, and again, like over some time had passed, but tried things on my own and still not getting any better. So I went to see my medical doctor again and just let them know I'm still feeling like the same. I still have bloating and it's not getting any better, and I'm not feeling any improvement. Nothing that I've tried has really helped. So they said, well, you can go and talk to the stomach specialist again and let them know and see what they suggest. Or I can also recommend like a medication that's helpful for IBS. And I said, no, I don't want to take the medication. I didn't want to take the medication just because I wasn't really sure what it would do, and it just seemed like it was just like a Band-Aid solution and wouldn't really help. So I said no to that. So I booked an appointment again to see the stomach specialist, and I went in and she said the same thing. It's really just IBS and there's nothing else going on, nothing you can do. She said, but what we can do is a breath test that tests if you have a bacterial overgrowth in your intestine. So I said, sure, like, let's give it a try. And so I think it took about a month or two for me to get an appointment for that. So finally got the appointment for that. And I go in, and then if anybody's done this test, you drink a solution, like a liquid. It has like lactulose in it, which is basically something that will show if there's a reaction. So if you have high amounts of these bacteria in your stomach, then you blow into this test and it will show it's positive, just the way that they react with this solution that you drink. So you drink you drink it and then you test it a couple of times over a couple of hours. So I had to stay there for a couple of hours and do this. So I drank this thing and did the breath test. After I did the test, I go home, and as soon as I start getting out of my car, I just noticed that my body is starting to feel like tingly and weak, and like I'm trying to grab my door handle to get out of the car and just felt all fuzzy. So I immediately went inside my house and went upstairs and lied in my bed, and I started just feeling so dizzy and so sweaty and hot, and then all of a sudden I just had to run to the washroom, and I was having vomiting, and just other issues were happening, and I was like, what is happening? Like, I felt so sick, and I called them, and I thought I was gonna have to go to the hospital because of what was happening. And I called them, and they said, oh, you're probably having a reaction, maybe we gave you too much. And I'm like, just so frustrated, and just so much is happening, and already like everything that is happening, and then this is happening now too. So it was just a lot to deal with, and I hope nobody had that experience too. And I don't think that's a typical experience, but after I Googled it and looked into it, it was basically like a form of laxative poisoning, because the way that the solution works is like a laxative. So it was just really bad. So that was that experience. And then after that, I think I was just really disappointed in the medical system, and just really upset that I wasn't getting any answers. I kind of just tried to do things on my own for the next little bit of time. And at this time, I think I actually finished university, but I hadn't started naturopathic school yet. I actually didn't know much about naturopathic medicine. And one of my friends, she suggested that I go to the naturopathic college and see an intern there, and under the supervision of a naturopathic doctor, and see what they suggest, because she did see one herself and they helped her with her gut issues. So I said, why not? I'll give it a try. So I went to the college, and I learned a lot there. Like, I learned a lot about how gut health is more than just what goes on in your gut. It's overall body. So this is where I learned that like stress was a main trigger of my IBS, which was something I never talked about with my medical doctor. The other doctor, they didn't really mention these kind of things, that stress could be a big trigger. So we worked a lot on stress and relaxation techniques, and then also tried different types of diets and different types of supplements and stuff. So I'll talk a little bit about that, because this is where things started getting a little bit better. The first thing that we tried was some digestive enzymes. So these are helpful for digesting food, and just they were realizing that based on like the symptoms that I was telling them, that I wasn't really digesting my food that well. So we did that, and that was kind of just a temporary solution to help things. So it did help with the pressure that I felt after eating, like that things were like stuck. So it helped with that. It didn't really help that much with the bloating. So that was one thing that helped. And the other thing that we tried was the Low-FODMAP diet. So this is a popular diet that's used for IBS symptoms. It eliminates a lot of different foods. So if anyone's done this diet, you know that it's tough. It is a challenging diet to follow. So I'll just give you some examples. You can't really have garlic and onions. You can't have certain amounts of fruit. So like you can only, like you get a booklet and it tells you, and you can't have a certain amount of apples. So it's like you can only have a piece of an apple, or there's certain like the broccolis and all those green vegetables, you can't have many of those. So it's very restrictive and it's a lot of work, but I did it and it did help. So I remember being, I went on a vacation at this time, and I went to Miami, and I remember being in Miami and ordering food and saying like, can I have chicken with no garlic and no onion? Can you modify this and that? And it was really challenging. It was a lot of work, and it just wasn't a sustainable diet, and it's not supposed to be, but it helped. But at the same time, I felt like I was just restricting myself from so much too. So on one end it was very helpful, on the other end it was a challenge. So I would say that the low FODMAP diet helped a lot. Working on stress helped. Working on reducing any sources of stress in my life and helping with stress management was very helpful for improving my IBS symptoms. So after like seeing the naturopath at the college, I kind of just worked on things myself and just did my own research, which I found was very helpful. I learned to focus on eating really warm and cooked foods. That helped me a lot too, like avoiding raw foods, raw salads. That was helpful. I tried different things, like I tried doing plant-based, I tried doing other sorts of diets, and nothing ever really changed everything until I realized like what my triggers were, and then focusing on my stress. So those are the two biggest things that I would say helped me improve my IBS symptoms. So focusing on stress by doing like deep breathing techniques, yoga, meditation, that was a big thing, and then eliminating my triggers. So the low FODMAP diet helped me identify some of those triggers, because after, when I was adding things back in, that helped me realize what my triggers were, and that was dairy was a big one, and then gluten and like wheat was another big one. So those were the two main triggers. So all of this happened over, I would say 4-5 years or so, like all of this. It was a long process, and it was just a long time of me dealing with symptoms and trying to figure out what was going on. But yeah, it took about 5 years or so to finally start feeling better and getting better. And I would say over the past 2 to 3 years, I've been good. Like I've been fine, except for the occasional, like if I eat something that irritates me, I will get bloated, or if I have one of those triggering foods, then it will trigger some of my symptoms. If I'm really stressed out, so when I was in naturopathic school and I was studying and I was really stressed during exam time, it would happen. But for the majority, my symptoms are well managed, and I figured out what was causing my IBS or triggering it, and I was able to heal it and reduce those symptoms that way. So if you are struggling with IBS, just know that it is a process. To be patient with yourself. It's always important to be an advocate for your health and say that you want to do further testing or you want to do further investigation if you feel like something is going on, and then just try different things and see what works best for you. Try to figure out what your triggers are and see how you can eliminate those triggers to improve your health. So I hope you all enjoyed listening to my story, and I hope that it maybe sparked some interest or provided you with some useful information that you could use on your own gut healing journey. If you'd like to leave a comment about your experience, leave it below and I will respond. I'd love to see what you guys are going through and share our mutual experience together. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you can be notified every time I upload a new video. See y'all next time.